Well, hello, everybody.
Hello.
We are here again on this magical full moon, blood moon, right?
Yes, the hunter's blood moon. Yeah.
Sweet. And quite a pivotal time in our history, you might say. So I invite Meher, and I'm Raphael, to share her expertise with astrology. And then I'll follow up with a little bit of a channeling to just give us an idea how to navigate the coming times.
Okay. Hi, everyone. All right. So there's a lot going on this full moon. For many reasons, the astrology actually from October through December is game changing for the collective for many reasons. I'll start with the long term. We have Pluto. There were 6 planets in retrograde, and now slowly they're coming direct. So Mercury turned direct, and now Pluto just stationed direct, and it's directly aspecting Mercury, which is the mind, the planet of death and rebirth, which has a very long orbit, so we don't see it. It doesn't aspect the same sign very often. It's more like a once in a lifetime type of thing for most of us. Is directly aspecting Mercury, which is our thinking logical mind, our left brain. So our brains, our perspectives, the way we think and look at life, it is going to undergo a complete rebirthing. And that's and it just stationed direct, so it's very, very powerful right now.
And that means communication.
Communication, yes. So everything Mercury resembles, right? A lot of you are familiar with Mercury retrograde. Well, more so electronics, travel, communication, anything with logistics. That's Mercury. So like, all the logistical delays and all are going to be over because it's gone direct. But Mercury retrograde happens often, but Mercury aspecting Pluto, which is just stationed directly, is yeah. So another thing that's happening, huge long-term perspective, is there's a Saturn, either Saturn Uranus opposition. So Saturn is the old world order, the way things worked, structures, patterns, systems. Uranus is everything new, the change. So our minds are literally, at like, you have like one foot in the old and one foot in the new, and you're like now, figuring out where to go next, because we're moving into the new world, but there's a struggle of releasing the old world. And the way it shows up in the collective, of course, is that a lot of things get revealed, with the old world, and you're kind of you're literally, the collective is struggling to release the old world, but the new world is coming through anyway. So already, so that's what's happening, as we move into the age of Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus. And of course, the Pluto thing is big because Pluto brings lasting changes and complete closures. Well, and Pluto has a lot of energy, comes with a big bang. It's a very powerful planet. It brings in a lot of punch when it does that, and its final endings of this Saturn Uranus thing that's going now. Also, there is an aspect of Pluto's making with the Taurus Scorpio axis. So the Taurus Scorpio axis is all about finances. Taurus is what you own, your homes. It's ruled by Venus, so homes, finances, and Scorpio is big money, big finances, secrets, debts, paying off other people's debts, and inheritances. So that's what Pluto is affecting. So we're going to see a big change in the way finance. I mean, we've been talking about it, but of course, this is the whole theme of October through December, of the way the finances work in the world will undergo a deep shift. And of course, Taurus is also Gaia. She's fixed Earth. So Gaia is going to undergo her changes. And so that's the whole big theme of this. And then we have, and we're moving into eclipse season, starting the next new moon. And eclipses also bring changes which are final. a lot of times sudden if we're not prepared for it, and a lot of times things which anyway we're supposed to fall off, but we're not allowing them to go. Eclipses will kind of shake them off, and of course, for the higher purpose of longer time growth. But it's the way it happens is like super, it's a little jarring sometimes with eclipse season, but they are definitely going to start bringing up the changes as we move into the 11/11 portal in November. So be prepared for change. I mean, we've been talking, we've been, pre-warning or whatever, but it comes in however it's supposed to come, internally and externally. Again, absolutely no fear intended, just a preparation. Because it's a beautiful thing. Change can be a beautiful thing if you allow it and see what's to come. When the old world is shifting and the new world hasn't manifested yet, there is an opportunity to manifest it. And manifestation is growing stronger and stronger because, again, with Pluto in the mix, there's a lot of power Pluto holds. So manifestation is going to get very strong. So really watch your thoughts and keep them positive, and think about what you want your new world to look like, on an individual level and on the collective level, because we are literally creating this new world as we're here. All of us here in the beginning of this era of Aquarius are here in order to be the change bringer. So it's all up to us how we create the world. So it's good news. It's not necessarily negative. It's just news of change. And now coming back to this particular full moon, so there's a lot going on here. This full moon is in Aries. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Aries is ruled by Mars. It's all about me. It's all about self-love and self-introspection. And also Aries always is like the warrior, right? So there is a lot of Mars energy here, and it is aspecting Chiron, and Chiron is retrograde. So Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron is an asteroid, and asteroids always go into the deeper layers of the unconscious, and it's about so when Aries is aspecting Chiron, the wounds are being brought up for healing in a very direct, quick, and strong way, because it's Mars, and Chiron is retrograde. So it's old wounds, where retrogrades always make us look back and think. So all of that is coming up to be resolved, like it wasn't in the last couple of months. I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over, but they really are different aspects if you really listen. But there is another opportunity for healing of old wounds with a fervor this time, because full moons are about endings anyway, about release. And this full moon is in Aries, so it's bringing the energy to that release through and the release is about the emotional healing of Chiron, which is about not necessarily new, but very old wounds. I mean, it could be reflected in your newer wounds again, if it's a lesson, but it's deeper, older things. So if you're wondering, like, all of a sudden, why am I like bringing up this thing that was ancient and I thought I was done with it? It's just like this time around, okay, you really weren't done. So let's look at it again, right? Now it's also opposing Libra. So Libra brings balance. So there is a nice Venus aspect. There is a nice Libra aspect, because so there is help. The goal of all of this is to come back to balance, and center. So there is still the Libra energy because the sun is still there, and there is, Venus is helping, and Chiron is really beautiful because it's a healer, even though it's the wounded healer. But what Chiron does is, through healing its own wounds, it becomes the teacher. So it's a good, in the end, the outcome is good if you understand what's going on and pull through the struggle and work with it, which is why we bring you these updates. So, it's easier to navigate it. And it could also mean forward momentum. Aries is all about forward momentum, just now, time to go, go, go. Whenever the moon is full in Aries, it's like, all right, let's go, let's finish whatever chapters we need to finish very quickly, because the full moon is about the release. So there is all of that, and now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Vedic astrological aspect of this moon. So in the Vedas, this moon is a moon where it's this particular moon in October. It brings the energies, they literally say it brings the energies of Amrita, or the nectar. So the rays of this moon are so auspicious, and they bring the 16 kalas. Kalas are human, siddhis, or pieces of human consciousness that make one a complete human. So they say anyone that has has mastered the 16 kalas is a perfect human. And this moon radiates those 16 kalas. So in ancient times, a lot of kings and warriors would and sages would take in the energies of this particular moon. They will bathe in the energies of this moon. They would charge water in it and crystals in it. And I know that's good on any moon, but there's something special about this particular moon and its rays. And every moon is special in its own way. This one brings the energy of health, the energy of charm, like to bring in the energy of attractiveness. And when I talk about charisma, that's the right word, thank you. So increasing that, if it's not particularly there in your chart, to bring that in, they ask to bathe in the energies of this moon. And also so it's this moon brings in those type of energies, so you can charge your water and drink it the next morning. There is an ancient tradition of making a rice pudding, and so with rice, milk and sugar or honey, and leaving it out to charge in the moon on the windowsill, and then consuming it the next day, and of course allowing the crystals to take it in as well. And people, of course, in the tropics where it was in this cold, would actually sit on the balcony and ingest the moon's energies, or rays, as much as they can this particular October full moon.
On their navels.
Yeah, apparently, there's a Ravana used to take that energy in his navel, and that made him so strong and gave him the siddhis. And Krishna, who is born with all the 16 kalas, on this moon, what he did was, on every full moon, Krishna and his gopis, the women in the village, would do this dance. They would do the full moon circular dance. And this is, the ancient times, how moon circles really started. So, and I'm sure every culture has its own story about it. So on this particular night, Krishna did the dance all night, and all of the women in that village, left their homes and went and danced with him all night. And he created multiple emanations of him to kind of accompany each of them. And so it was a night of, the charm, it was a night of enchantment. It was the night of the union of the divine masculine and feminine, and the divine masculine created its emanation to let every divine feminine have their own perfect manifestation of the divine masculine. So those are the stories, the mythology, and all of that. But that's basically the gist of it. So you get the point. All right, I think I've spoken enough. I'll let you go now.
So that's quite a magical full moon on many levels.
Yes.
And of course, if it's also the full moon, that means that we're beginning the ascendancy of the new moon to start growing. So it's also suggesting that we have new beginnings.
Yes, it's an interesting full moon. Usually full moons are about releases, but this particular full moon almost also brings the new beginnings along with the release, because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's the new beginning. Then because it is Sharad Purnima.
Right. It's a whole brand new cycle.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, let's see what the guides have to say. Already there's a sense that one of the major aspects of what you have shared relates to the whole idea that we have an opportunity now to reprogram. You mentioned the mind, and that there's a brand new ability of the mind to start a whole new approach. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it does tune in a lot with everything we've been working with, certainly in terms of the path of the spiritual warrior, but also working with the emotions and the trapped emotions, working with all of our old programming, our conditioning from childhood, working with ancestral patterns, working with our own individual emotional natures as the old wounds rise up to be healed. It's a major time for us to be examining our shadows, examining our belief systems. Every thought, every word that we say needs to be examined very closely with a fine-tooth comb under the microscope to see if it serves us any longer. And if it doesn't, then it's time for us to start replacing those old worn-out thoughts and feelings about ourselves, as well as replacing the actual neural pathways that have been reinforced over so many centuries of conditioning, so that in fact you have the ability to totally repattern the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you perceive. Because our perceptions are what creates our belief systems, and they create our judgments, they create our sense of who we are, our self-love. And so by examining and allowing a new energy to come in, by allowing ourselves to hear what our hearts really want for us and are trying to manifest for us, we start to be able to move into a whole new pattern of thinking, of conceiving, and of believing, so that in fact we are creating a whole new neural pathway in our brains as we reinforce the new affirmations, shall we say, so that in the heart thread work, we receive the messages from the cells. And instead of the old voices, the old patterns, the old habits, we're actually reinforcing a brand new neural pathway, a brand new pattern that our cells are wanting us to wake up to. So when we say that which is for our highest good, our cells are able to hear it. And then the transformation can start, because what it appears is that all of these different aspects, these planets, these zodiac signs, that are all aspecting. That word came up because that's part of the jargon of astrology. But what they're doing is they're asking us to examine all of our aspects. And they are all aspects of what is required to make this transformation, to make this shift, so that we're actually reprogramming ourselves, repatterning our connection with Gaia, with each other, with our planetary connections. And we are actually beginning to make that shift towards the new Earth. And so it is also very much so that the coming times are going to present us with challenges individually, emotionally, and in our personal lives, obviously also in our financial lives, but also in our relationship to the cosmos, because there's so much light now being directed at this planet, so much new cosmic powerful radiations. The sun itself is going through its own evolution and directing more and more light. There is always the chance of major solar flares, solar emissions, solar, there's a word for it. It's like a huge outpouring of solar energy mass that actually affects our whole planet. And so it's very possible that our technology may not be able to be stable enough for us to live the kind of life that we are so comfortable with. It will also produce changes in all sorts of things like weather, food production, food delivery. And so it's very wise to be prudent and make sure that you have plenty of stored food and supplies, especially as we move towards the winter. And the whole technology of delivery may be affected. There may be goings on within Mother Earth herself that will affect the planet. There's talk of volcanoes that are almost like preparing to erupt. And so as Mother Earth goes through these shifts as well, the influence of all these magnetic extrusions that reach the Earth will cause a certain amount of change, of tumult. And so it's very important to ground and be steady, to feel Mother Earth and Father Sky, and allow yourself to have a sense of groundedness and of connection to your higher self and to your guidance. It's so important also, as we talked about the wounded healer and the feminine and the masculine coming together again in a wholesome way. It's important to actually express and feel that aspect of the divine feminine within ourselves. Even the men carry as much of the feminine energy as they do the masculine, and so too for the women. And so it's important for us to find that balance that you mentioned, and also to understand that in order to start a new cycle, we have to completely trust in a higher power, in our own inner guidance and wisdom, and especially to start shifting from our minds, from our heads, back to our hearts, and start receiving and integrating so that we can begin this new cycle on the right foot in coordination with all of the energies that are bombarding us, but also in cooperation with Mother Earth, in collaboration with each other, with allies, with friends, with family, with loved ones, to make sure that everybody has enough, to make sure that nobody's left in the cold. Nobody is left without help, without enough to eat, without a place to stay. And so it's a time of great compassion, because from what you said about the astrology, with so many changes being final, it also entails that many of our loved ones, or even some of us, might be leaving the planet now because of all the final changes. That is one of the most important ones that are likely to show up. So be aware that this is a time when many very powerful emotions will come up, and let them come up. Feel them, ride the storm. Find a way to always find a little tranquility, peace of mind, gratitude, as much compassion as you can for yourself and others, and let go of assumptions, of judgments, and let go of everything that no longer serves us. I think that encapsulates it pretty well.
Absolutely, yeah. Letting go of everything that does not serve in the mental realm is Mercury and Pluto. Like I said, it's like time to completely close all chapters with all the power that Pluto is presenting, that are no longer serving you in the mental realm. And the reason that this aspect is there right before the entire switch comes through is for us to become stable in our minds, for us to no longer, because Mercury also is in Gemini, Mars is in Gemini, and that's it's a little bit, it's kind of unsettling, because Mars is, very self, it's all about self,
Directed.
and yeah, territorial. And in a dual sign like Gemini, it just is like, do I go this way or do I go that way? Do I use my energies here or do I use my energies there? And so the Mercury and Pluto can bring you to, if you use it well, altogether the energies can feel very chaotic, but Mars is going to be for quite some time, until, for a while. So we may as well get used to at least being internally stable in our minds. And as such, anything that's in the way of that be cleared, so that we're able to then keep calm in the eye of the storm when it shows up.
Yeah.
And it's just about preparation. Like we're all saying, cleansing, preparation. Through Virgo season, we cleansed our bodies, new routines. Through Libra season, we cleansed our relationships. And, so this full moon ends that aspect. And now with this, we're cleansing our logical minds and our, whatever is left, finishing up your taxes for those who are delayed.
But there'll also be, because of the full moon, it's going to also affect the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just the mind.
Oh, yeah, the moon's aspecting Chiron. Absolutely, yeah.
And so that's the thing that seems the most important, is to have a practice, have a way of grounding, have a way of being steady in your own life and feeling gratitude and going into the heart as much as you possibly can, because the heart is going to be taking over from the mind more and more until they find a good, healthy balance. And so whenever you can, be receptive, listen more than talk, and make sure you take care of your body, your vessel. And that will also help to keep you steady by having not just a metaphysical, spiritual practice, but also a physical practice where you do exercise, where you do yoga, where you treat your body as if it's your best friend, because it is.
And you bring up a very important point about going into the heart. And why that's so important at this point is there's going to be choices. Like I said, there was a lot of duality in the last new moon. Also, there was many aspects in like Gemini and Pisces and all these dual signs, and like Saturn and Aquarius doing its push and pull, the old world and the new world. Yes. So the way to navigate it right now is not through the mind. It is through the heart, because it's just, your mind is going to be bombarded with so many changes going on the external, that if you don't center yourself in your heart and but also purify your mind to be more disciplined, then it is going to get harder to navigate them. So your choices, when there are choice points, it's important to really go into the heart, because we are all together creating this new world. What do we want it to look like? And, not out of limitations, not out of lack, not out of, like, oh, it can only look this way. No, like, what does your heart want it to look like? And
that's your intuition. If you pay attention to your intuition, you have to know in the moment sometimes exactly what to do. And if you develop your ability to tune into your intuition, to your guidance, you'll be able to know exactly what to do instinctively. It will become more of a knowing instead of just a thinking and a belief. It will become something that automatically just follows. And that's how you navigate more and more from that feminine side, the intuitive way of responding rather than push, rather than trying to figure it all out and trying to prepare for every eventuality and worry about it. Instead, you still the mind, you go into the heart, and you ask your guidance, and then you listen. Listening is one of the most important things that one can do at this time. It will help everybody around you. When they feel that you can listen to them, they will feel more comfortable, and you'll have a clearer and more sweet kind of relationship with them. It always pays to stop that need to immediately interrupt
Mm-hmm.
and just sit back for a moment and hear what somebody else has to say.
Mm-hmm. And I think this modality that Raphael and I practice since I just learned last week, the heart thread, I think really helps with bringing you in your heart. And then there are so many other things that bring you in your heart, that anything that quietens your mind, like any discipline, whether it's yoga, whether it's, any kind of meditation, any process that you do that stops your mind will allow your intuition will give a chance to your intuition to talk. Well, all right. Well, thank you so much. I think
So
this is a
yeah,
good
I just
time.
want to remind you to have fun and play and do art, do creative things, because that stops the mind.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you so much. We'll be with you another time, another moon, another eclipse, another equinox and solstice. We love to bring you this combination of our talents. We love you. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.
Thank you.